Hi, Mr. More Sewing here. Today we're going to talk about getting the tension right on your overlocker. I've set up and repaired hundreds of overlockers, so I know the core issues that people have when they're trying to get the tensions right on their machines, and it's a different beast and it can be quite confusing. So that's what I'm here to do today, is I'm going to try and help you pass on my experience and what I've seen and give you some hints and tips so you can get the tension right on your overlocker every time. So the first thing is actually, what does good overlocking look like? Because if you've got a machine and you've never really been able to get it right, you might not even have an idea what it looks like. So I'm going to do some closer pictures, but I've got some samples here. This is a sample of good overlocking, and what I mean by that is you'll see that the loopers front and back are in balance with each other, and that's a big thing here with the tension on an overlocker. It's all about being in balance. So they actually lock together at the very edge of the fabric. Almost looks like a line when you look at it from the top. And then the two needle threads that hold the loopers in place are, well, they look like what they would look like on a sewing machine. They're not loose, they're not tight, they're not puckering. They're just right, they're doing their job. So that's good overlocking. That's what you want to look for. If you've got a problem with your overlocking, that it looks like it's good and then it's bad and then it's good and then it's bad, that might not be a tension issue at all, and in fact it's probably more to do with the way the machine's been threaded. So what you need to do is check and make sure that your overlocker is threaded up correctly. I'm hoping that you've watched my previous video, hints and tips for getting the best from your overlocker, because in there is a point about threading up your machine properly, using the right needles, changing them regularly like you would do on a sewing machine, but also keeping the tension disc clean. I don't hear a lot of people talking about that. You'd be amazed how many times I see problems with people's tensions, and it's down to things being caught in the tension discs. The tension discs are these 4 dials that you see on your overlocker, and basically behind them are 2 metal plates and a spring, and when you adjust the numbers on your overlocker, you're tightening or loosening the spring that tightens and loosens the 2 plates coming together. The tighter it gets, the more it pinches the thread, the looser it is, the easier it is for the thread to pass through. Some people get really worked up about the numbers, but they're really just indicators to tell you how tight or how loose that particular set of tension discs are. Because as I say, you're tightening or loosening a spring. And the important thing with an overlocker, it's true with a sewing machine as well, but the important thing with an overlocker is the tensions on these discs, the threads have to be in balance. If one's too tight, it can pull the other one, and if one's too loose, it can allow the other one to be pulled back against it. You'll see what I mean as we go on. So assuming that you've got fresh needles and you're comfortable that your tension discs are clean, let's look at the tension issues on your machine. If the tension is tight, the fabric will look puckered because it'll literally be pulling on the fabric. It's far more likely that you're going to see a loose tension, and you can see these little bubbles, these little loops, and that means that needle's tension is too loose. Now, one of the core principles of setting the tension on your overlocker is to pick one thread at a time and move the numbers, the dials, one step at a time. If you start pulling on more dials and moving them up and down and jumping numbers and everything, you're quickly going to get very confused, because you won't know if what you've done has solved one problem but caused another, if you see what I mean. So stick to one thread and move them one step at a time. And if you've got loose tension, as in this example with this needle thread, basically move the numbers up. So if it's on 3, turn it to 4, make it tighter, and then test it again. And what you'll find quite quickly is they'll come into balance. Don't need to make massive adjustments. So assuming that you've got those correct, let's talk about your loopers. So to give you an example with the tension on your loopers, they usually end up looking like this. And what you can see is that line that I talked about where the 2 loopers are in perfect tension is actually sitting on one side. It's either on the front or the back of your fabric. And you can see it's just running along as a line. Now the trouble is, what that means, and it will say it in the book if you read it, is that technically either the one set of loopers is too loose or one set of loopers is too tight. and there's no real easy way to tell which is which. You might get some idea by looking at the numbers, even though given what I said earlier, but basically if one set of the loopers is on a much lower tension than the other one, I would suggest you start with the lower one and just turn it up by 1. Do a test again on a piece of fabric and see if it's actually moving that line back towards the top of the fabric, because that's basically what you want. If it makes it better, do another number. If it makes it worse, put it back where it was and adjust the other one, loosen it off. They've got to be in balance. So basically you're looking for the two to be pulling against each other in an equal way. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to end up with the same number on the dial, but they need to be pulling against each other in such a way that the line that you're looking for where the two loopers meet, the two looper threads meet, is along the top of the fabric. So in this case, if I was given this one as an example, I would think one of the loopers is too loose, probably the lower one, and I would just start by turning the numbers by 1 at a time, pushing the number up, testing it and see what it looks like. The only time, if you can tension the loopers together as it were, by just adjusting one, that's great. The only time I would start to think, hang on, there's something going on here, is if you really end up either with right at the bottom of the dial down around 0 or 1, or right at the top of the dial around number 8 or 9, because that means you're really putting a lot of tension, or not very much tension at all, on that one thread. And in which case I would bring that loop and numbers back down towards the middle somewhere, 4 or 5, and start looking at what the other one's doing. So it can take a little bit of a while to sort it out, but basically stick to the principle, 1 thread at a time, 1 number at a time, be prepared to test it. Might take a little while, but once you've got that right, and once you've got the tensions right, make a little note of the numbers, because if you brush against them or something like that, if you've got them written down somewhere, you know, oh, I could just put that back where it was, test it, oh yeah, that looks okay, we're good to go. I hear some other people saying that you have to change the tensions every time you work on a new fabric, if it's a different kind of fabric. I tend to find that that's not true. If you've got good tension on the threads, then you should be all right. So it can take a little while to get it right, 1 number at a time, 1 thread at a time, but ultimately you'll get those threads back into balance and you'll end up with a good example. One other thing I notice people doing from time to time, it's very easy to do, and you may well have done it yourself in the past if you've used these for any length of time, is actually when you lift the presser foot on these overlockers, they don't come up very high, and it's very easy sometimes to forget that you haven't lowered the presser foot when you're going to start doing your overlocking, and it will sew, it will overlock, but it will look like I was saying before that there's a problem with the threading. It'll look a bit weird, and that's basically because you're pushing the fabric through without the presser foot actually pressing down on the fabric. So that's just a little tip there. I see people doing that from time to time, and they kind of go, oh, what's gone wrong with this? And it's like, well, you didn't put the presser foot down. But because it's very low, and you'll notice that actually on a sewing machine, when you lift the presser foot, you'll get a definite clearance. You can see it. Sometimes on an overlocker, particularly if you're using a scuba or a thicker jersey, you won't realise that you haven't put the foot down. So that's just a little tip I've picked up as well. Anyway, I hope you've really enjoyed that. Again, happy if you've got any questions or you want to make any points. I'm always willing to learn. I'm not suggesting I know it all, but I have worked on a fair few of these. And anyway, happy sewing.